When I first met Jake, he was the kind of man who could walk into a room and instantly make it feel warmer. He wasn't flashy or loud, just effortlessly magnetic. We met at a friend's 4th of July barbecue, and within 5 minutes of talking, I was already hooked. He listened. Not just nodded and smiled, but actually listened, like what I said mattered. That's rare these days. At the time, I wasn't even looking for a relationship. I had just gotten out of a long-term thing that ended with the usual promises of, "It's not you, it's me." But Jake was different. Or so I thought. We started seeing each other every weekend. Then every other night. Within 3 months, we were practically inseparable. My friends noticed how happy I looked, how often I laughed. I did too. And when Jake looked at me, I saw my future in his eyes. There was just one thing: kids. I'm 32. I've always wanted to be a mom. Not tomorrow, not in a rush, but eventually. I was open about that from the start. I wasn't trying to trap anyone or issue ultimatums. I just knew what I wanted for my life, and I figured any serious relationship should at least be on the same page. So around month 5, during a quiet dinner at home, I brought it up. "Have you ever thought about having kids someday?" I asked him as we were finishing up takeout on the couch. Jake leaned back, rubbed the back of his neck, and gave me a sigh that was way too dramatic for a simple question. "It's not that I don't want them," he said. "I just don't know if I'm ready. Maybe in a few years, when things are more stable." Fair enough. He wasn't saying no, just not now. And honestly, that was okay with me. I appreciated the honesty. We were still in the early stages, and I figured we had time to grow together. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "When I'm ready, if you're still around, I can't think of anyone I'd want to be the mother of my kids more than you." I melted. But looking back now, I wish I'd paid more attention to that pause before he answered. Because that wasn't hesitation, that was calculation. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, Jake's words echoed in my head. "I'm not ready for that kind of responsibility. Not now." He had sounded so convincing, so heartfelt. But now I had a name. Olivia Carter. The woman from the park. The one whose toddler had run straight into Jake's arms like he was the only safe place on earth. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but my gut was screaming at me that something didn't add up. I had never seen Jake look that frozen. Not when he met my friends. Not when we talked about the future. Only when he looked at her. I decided I'd had enough second-guessing. The next morning, after Jake left for work, I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. Facebook. Instagram. LinkedIn. Even Pinterest. I searched Olivia Carter and filtered for location. It took me less than 15 minutes to find her. Public profile. Smiling pictures of her and a little boy named Noah. Noah. That name stung. In one of the posts, Olivia was holding Noah in front of a birthday cake. The caption said, "Can't believe my baby boy is 3 today. Grateful every day, even when it's hard doing it alone." 3. Which meant she got pregnant around the same time Jake and I started dating. My stomach dropped. I scrolled further, trying to find any trace of a man, any hint of Noah's father. There was nothing. Until I hit a photo buried in her archives. A grainy selfie of Olivia at a beach bonfire. Her hair was wild from the wind, and sitting beside her, arm draped over her shoulder, was Jake. Not maybe Jake. Not someone who kinda looks like him. Jake. My Jake. Smiling like he belonged. The post was from 4 years ago. Around the time we met. I felt like someone had poured ice water down my back. Everything blurred. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely move the mouse. I closed the laptop and sat in silence. So Jake wasn't not ready for kids. He already had one. And he was pretending he didn't. I didn't confront him right away. I needed a plan. I needed proof. I needed him to lie to me one more time, on record. So that night, when he came home and kissed me on the forehead like he always did, I acted normal. I smiled. I asked him how his day was. I made his favorite pasta. We watched Netflix on the couch like nothing was wrong. And then I asked him, casually, "Do you ever think about having kids one day?" He stiffened slightly. Just slightly. Then shook his head. "Nah. I mean, maybe someday. But not now. We've talked about this, babe." "I know," I replied softly. "Just curious if you ever had a scare in the past. Like, did you ever come close?" He laughed nervously. "No. Definitely not. Never had that issue. That was it. The final nail." He lied. Right to my face. And now I had his lie and the truth. The next day, I called Olivia. Yes, it was bold. Maybe reckless. But I needed to hear it from her. Needed to see if she even knew about me. If Jake had hidden me from her the same way he'd hidden her from me. She answered on the third ring. "Hello? Hi, you don't know me. My name's Danielle. I know this is weird, but I think we might have someone in common." There was a pause. Then she said, "Jake?" My heart stopped. "Yes," I whispered. And just like that, everything unraveled. Olivia invited me to meet her at a nearby cafe that afternoon. She was cautious, but kind. Her eyes looked tired, like she'd aged 5 years in the last 2. We sat across from each other, awkward at first, stirring our coffees. "You're dating him now?" she asked, cutting straight to it. "I was," I said. "Until yesterday." She let out a bitter laugh. "Figures." And then she told me her story. Jake had been her boyfriend all through college. They'd lived together for 2 years. When she got pregnant, he panicked. Said he needed time to figure things out. Then one day, he just didn't come home. Ghosted. Gone. Left her to raise Noah alone. "He sends money once in a while," Olivia said. "But he's never seen his son since that day at the park." I blinked. "That wasn't planned?" She shook her head. "No. He didn't even know we were going to be there. I saw the look on his face. He wasn't ready to see us." I told her what he said to me about not being ready for that kind of responsibility. She looked away. "Yeah. That's his line." By the time I left the cafe, I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was angry. Not just for me, but for Olivia. For Noah. For every lie Jake told to keep his 2 lives separate. I decided I wouldn't just walk away quietly. He didn't deserve that kind of grace. I had a better idea. I spent the next 2 days pretending like everything was fine. Smiling. Laughing at his jokes. Kissing him goodnight. But inside, I was boiling. You see, most people walk away when they're betrayed. But I've always believed that some people don't learn until they feel the weight of their own lies, publicly. I wasn't out for revenge. I was out for clarity. And maybe a little closure. So I did what any woman would do in the age of digital receipts. I set the trap. It started with a simple dinner invite. "Hey babe," I said one evening. "I was thinking of hosting a little backyard barbecue. Just a few friends. You cool with that?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "Backyard barbecue? That's new." I shrugged. "Figured it's time we start acting like a real couple, you know? Meet each other's circles." He nodded slowly. "Sure. Sounds fun." Translation: "This might be risky, but I can't say no without looking suspicious." He didn't know what I had planned. I invited 3 of our mutual friends, a couple from work, and very subtly, I messaged Olivia. "There's something you deserve to see. If you're comfortable, bring Noah. He'll just be playing in the yard. No drama, I promise." She didn't reply for a few hours. Then, finally, "Okay. I'll come. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for my son." Fair enough. The day of the barbecue came. Jake helped me set up the grill. I made lemonade. He even tried to show off a little, pretending he was some kind of backyard chef with his store-bought ribs. At 2 p.m., people started arriving. Small talk. Laughter. It all looked normal. Until Olivia stepped through the side gate, holding little Noah's hand. Jake was in the middle of telling a story when he saw them. He froze. Completely. The color drained from his face. His beer tilted in his hand. I thought it might drop. Noah smiled and waved. "Hi, Daddy!" Every eye turned. The backyard fell silent. Jake looked at me. I smiled, just a soft, quiet, knowing smile. Then I said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Jake, why don't you introduce your son to everyone?" He stammered. This is. Noah," Olivia said calmly. "Go say hi." The little boy ran to Jake and hugged his leg like it was the most normal thing in the world. Jake looked like he might faint. There's a kind of silence that feels louder than a scream. Every guest watched as the cracks in Jake's perfect persona shattered in real time. He tried to explain. First to me. Then to our friends. Then to Olivia. But every word dug him deeper. "I didn't want to scare you away. I didn't think it was the right time to bring it up. I thought maybe someday I could make it right." I let him speak. I didn't interrupt. I wanted everyone to hear what dishonesty sounds like when it's cornered. When he finally ran out of excuses, Olivia picked up Noah and left. Not a word. Just walked straight out the gate. I looked at Jake. "You told me you weren't ready for kids. You forgot to mention you already had one." He opened his mouth again, but I was done. I turned to the guests, some awkwardly sipping their drinks, others just watching with wide eyes. "Sorry for the drama. Feel free to stay and eat. Jake won't be joining us." And then I walked into the house, locked the door behind me, and burst into tears. Later that night, Jake came back. He knocked. Then pounded. Then pleaded through the door. "Please, Danielle. I screwed up. But I love you. I didn't know how to fix it." I didn't answer. He left at 1 a.m. The next day, I packed his things and left them outside in a box labeled, "For the liar." I never saw him again after that. But the story wasn't quite over yet. You see, Olivia texted me a few days later. She said Noah kept asking about the barbecue. About the nice lady who gave him juice. About why Daddy doesn't live with us. It broke my heart. I asked if she wanted to talk. We ended up meeting again. And this time, we didn't just talk about Jake. We talked about life. About singlehood. About raising kids with integrity, even when the other parent disappears. And somehow, through shared betrayal, we built a strange kind of trust. Noah even started calling me Miss Danny. It stuck. Sometimes, healing comes from unexpected places. 3 weeks had passed since the barbecue. Jake never came back to the house. Not once. No calls. No texts. Not even a desperate apology email. Just silence. At first, I thought that would bring me peace. But grief doesn't always follow logic. It turns out, when someone shatters your heart, the absence hurts too. Even if they were never who they claimed to be. I spent that week cleaning out the last remnants of Jake. The drawer full of his socks. The half-empty bottle of cologne he always overused. Even the ridiculous novelty coffee mug that said, "World's okayest boyfriend," which felt a little too accurate now. I tossed it all into a donation box. Every item felt lighter than the last. And then I found the folder. Buried in the back of his side of the closet, behind an old gym bag, was a black file folder. Thick. Unlabeled. Out of place. I opened it. What I found inside stopped me cold. It was full of legal documents. Child support statements. Old paternity test results. Court letters. Financial records. All tied to Noah. And Olivia. And more than that, it wasn't just negligence. It was deliberate deception. Jake was paying child support, occasionally. But under a different address. A P.O. box I'd never seen. He had also once filed to reduce his payments, claiming financial hardship. Even though I knew for a fact he made 6 figures and didn't pay rent, because he lived in my house. There were also half-filled forms from a legal site. Like he'd considered going for full custody at one point, then never followed through. What kind of man was this? One foot in a child's life, the other in total denial. I didn't know what to do with the folder. Part of me wanted to burn it. Part of me wanted to mail it to Olivia and wash my hands of everything. But mostly, I wanted answers. Closure. So I called the one person who deserved to see it all, Olivia. She came over 2 days later. Noah stayed home with her sister. I handed her the folder without a word. She read silently, flipping each page like it might explode in her hands. Then she looked up at me, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's been lying to both of us. All this time." I nodded. She shook her head in disbelief. "He filed to reduce support while living with you? With your income?" I gave a sad smile. "You can't make this stuff up." Olivia stared at the floor for a long moment. Then she said, "You know what the worst part is? For a second, I almost let him back in. After that day at the park, the way Noah looked at him. I thought maybe, just maybe." Her voice cracked. I walked over and hugged her. 2 women. Same betrayal. Same broken trail of trust. After that, Olivia decided she was done playing quiet. She called her lawyer. They filed to formally revise the custody and support agreements, citing Jake's concealment of income and emotional negligence. Meanwhile, I blocked Jake on everything. He didn't fight it. Didn't respond. He simply faded away. But here's the twist. In cleaning up my house, I ended up opening a space in my life I hadn't realized I was missing. Olivia and I became friends. Unlikely, but real. Noah would visit sometimes. He'd play in my backyard like it was a second home. And slowly, piece by piece, the anger melted. Not because I forgot what Jake did, but because I learned something far more powerful. Love isn't about who promises you everything. It's about who shows up when there's nothing left to promise. A few weeks later, Olivia and I took Noah to the same park. This time, Jake wasn't there. No awkward stares. No secrets. Just us, the sun, and a 3-year-old shouting, "Faster!" on the swings. At one point, Olivia turned to me and asked, "Do you ever wish you could go back and stop yourself from meeting him?" I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "No," I said. "Because then I wouldn't have known you. Or Noah. Or the strength I have now." She smiled. "That's poetic." I grinned. "Well, I am single now. I've got time to be deep." We both laughed. And for the first time in months, it felt like I was finally breathing real air again. The thing about heartbreak is, it doesn't just end when the person leaves. It lingers. In little ways. Like how every time I saw a father and son at the store, I'd feel a tug in my chest. Or how I'd hear a certain song on the radio, the one Jake once said reminded him of us, and I'd have to pull over to keep from breaking down. I wasn't angry anymore. I was exhausted. But that exhaustion? It taught me a lot. For starters, it made me realize just how many things I'd been ignoring when I was with Jake. His sudden disappearances. The awkward silences when I asked about the future. The way he never wanted to hang out with my nieces or nephews, always saying kids made him nervous. It all made sense now. He wasn't nervous. He was guilty. And guilt makes people hide. I decided to take a break from dating. I started journaling. Meditating. I even took a solo weekend trip to the coast just to listen to the waves and remember what it felt like to be me. But strangely, in the quiet of that trip, I found myself thinking not about Jake, but about Noah. That goofy little smile. The way he said Miss Danny, like it was the most important title in the world. How he asked Olivia if I could come to his next birthday party. I missed him. I missed them. When I got back, I texted Olivia. "Hey, want to do lunch? I've got an embarrassing story about me trying to surf." She replied instantly. Yes. But only if you let me laugh at you the whole time. And that's how it became a thing. Not just Olivia and me. But us. Her. Me. And Noah. Over the next month, I became a regular part of their lives, in the least expected way. Not as a girlfriend. Not as a co-parent. But as someone who simply showed up. I helped Olivia set up a little raised garden bed behind her apartment. Taught Noah how to make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, poorly, I'll admit. And when Noah had a little preschool presentation about family, he drew a picture with 3 people. His mom, himself, and a woman with long brown hair labeled Danny. It broke me. In the best way. But here's the part no one saw coming. One night, Olivia and I were sitting on her porch, watching Noah chase fireflies. She turned to me and said, "You know, when I met you I hated you." I laughed. "I don't blame you." She shook her head. "Not because of you. Because I thought you had the life I wanted. Stability. Love. A partner. I didn't know you were living with a liar, too." I looked at her. We were both in the dark. She nodded. "And somehow we're both better for it." There was a long pause. Then she said quietly, "Do you ever wonder why we stayed so long with someone who gave us so little?" I thought about that. Really thought. Then I answered, "Because we thought if we gave more, they'd finally give back." She smiled, but it was a sad kind of smile. "No more giving to people who don't show up," she said. "No more," I echoed. And we clinked our lemonade glasses like a toast to our new, boundaried, better selves. A few days later, Jake tried to reach out. Blocked number. Voicemail. His voice sounded tired. "Danielle, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Therapy. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I wasn't honest with you. Or Olivia. I messed up. But I miss you. And I miss how simple things were when we were together." That last part made me snort. Simple? He didn't understand a thing. I deleted the voicemail. Didn't even let it play to the end. And I didn't tell Olivia. Why? Because it didn't matter anymore. Jake was a storm that had passed. And I was finally rebuilding in the sunlight. 1 week later, Noah had a little graduation ceremony from his pre-K program. He wore a paper crown and a lopsided smile. When the teacher called his name, he ran across the stage and shouted, "Hi, Mommy! Hi, Miss Danny!" Everyone in the audience smiled. Some probably wondered who I was. But it didn't matter. Because I knew who I was. I was someone who didn't walk away from broken people. But I also wasn't afraid to leave them behind when they refused to grow. Olivia and I went out for ice cream that afternoon. Noah fell asleep in the back seat, chocolate smeared on his cheeks. And for the first time, Olivia asked something she hadn't before. "Do you ever think, maybe this was supposed to happen? Like the universe knew we'd be better off meeting each other than staying with Jake?" I looked at her. Then at the sleeping boy in the back seat. "Yeah," I said. "I really do." 6 months later, my life looked nothing like it used to. No more awkward dinners with someone who never listened. No more begging for honesty. No more settling for silence when I needed answers. Instead, I had something better. Not perfect. But real. Olivia and I had grown close. Closer than I ever thought possible with someone who used to feel like a rival. We didn't plan it. We just lived it. Late-night phone calls when one of us had a rough day. Pizza nights with Noah, watching cartoons in our pajamas. Honest talks about trust, boundaries, and the pieces we were still picking up from the damage Jake left behind. We became something like sisters. Not by blood, but by survival. Noah didn't understand everything, of course. But he knew we loved him. He'd say, "Miss Danny's my other best grown-up," and beam with pride. I told him that meant the world to me, because it did. Once, during a bedtime story, he looked up and asked, "Are you gonna stay forever?" I didn't know what to say. Because nothing is forever. But I looked him in the eye and said, As long as you'll have me, buddy. He hugged me so tight I nearly cried. Jake resurfaced again in spring. This time, not with a voicemail. He showed up at the park, unannounced, while Olivia and I were watching Noah play on the swings. He looked different. Tired. Lean. Nervous. I stood up immediately, protective instincts flaring. Olivia stepped in front of Noah, calm but firm. Hey, Jake said. I just wanted to see him. I haven't in so long. Olivia didn't raise her voice. She didn't curse. But what she said, it hit like thunder. You lost that right when you lied to both of us and left. Jake tried to argue, about parenting time, about forgiveness, but Olivia didn't budge. And neither did I. Eventually, he turned and walked away. No threats. No shouting. Just the hollow footsteps of a man who finally realized what he threw away. That moment solidified something. We weren't living in Jake's shadow anymore. We'd built something new. And it was stronger than anything he could tear down. Later that night, Olivia thanked me. For what? I asked. For staying, she said softly. Even when you didn't have to. Months passed. Noah started kindergarten. On his first day, he wore a tiny backpack twice his size and held both our hands, Olivia's on the left, mine on the right. He looked up and said, You guys are both my moms now, right? We laughed, but there were tears too. Not from confusion. From something deeper. From knowing we'd turned the mess of a man's betrayal into a home filled with warmth. No legal titles. No expectations. Just love. Loyalty. And a promise to always show up. That winter, Olivia asked me something unexpected. She was thinking of moving to a better school district. Bigger apartment. Fresh start. But she didn't want to do it alone. She looked me in the eye and asked, Would you consider moving in with us? Not as a girlfriend. Just as family. I was stunned. Not because I hadn't thought about it, but because she had. Because this whole time, we'd been slowly building something most people wouldn't even understand. 2 women. 1 child. And no bitterness between us, just peace. I said yes. Of course I did. We found a cozy townhouse not far from her job. I took the spare room, though Noah kept sneaking in for bedtime stories anyway. We split bills. Grocery trips. Weekend errands. We made it work. People asked questions sometimes. We answered with smiles. No, we're not a couple. Yes, we co-parent. Yes, it's unconventional. No, we wouldn't change a thing. Because family isn't just DNA. It's the people who show up. Who stay. Who listen. Who try. Jake sent one last letter. Apologizing again. Saying he was getting help. Asking, quietly, humbly, if someday Noah might want to see him. We didn't decide right away. We tucked the letter in a drawer and agreed to wait until Noah was old enough to make that choice for himself. Because now? This wasn't Jake's story anymore. It was ours. One night, sitting on the couch after Noah had gone to bed, Olivia looked over at me. You ever think about how weird this all started? She asked. I laughed. Yeah. 1 man. 2 women. And a whole lot of secrets. And now? She said. No. I answered. It's just peace. She raised her glass. To peace. I clinked mine against hers. To unexpected beginnings. And as I sat there, in a home filled with warmth and the quiet hum of a dishwasher, I realized something. Jake had said he wasn't ready for kids. But maybe I was. Not in the traditional sense. Not with him. But in a way that mattered more. Because I had a kid's trust. A mother's friendship. And a life that felt honest, finally. So if you've ever been lied to, used, left in the dark, know this. Sometimes the heartbreak isn't the end. Sometimes it's the door to a life you never imagined. Mine came through betrayal. But it led me to something real. It led me to them. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Not even the truth from the beginning.